Hey guys, welcome back. It's Josh with the Financial Advisor Car Guy. This week we're going to talk about where to search if you're in the market for a new daily driver, a new project car, or whatever it is that you're after. This is a topic that I get asked all the time. This is also a topic I have talked about in prior episodes, but I wanted to go ahead and devote this episode to just that. So let's dive right in. First and foremost, when I'm in the market for a new car, I want to do my research before I start making offers or start looking around. And so I like to start on a local level. And so what that means is doing the research that I want to do, utilizing Google. There's a lot of different publications, there's YouTube videos, there's all sorts of stuff to educate yourself on what it is that you're looking for. You're going to learn about the different makes, the different models. You're going to learn about the sub levels and maybe the options and all the different things that are associated with a car. If I use my R8, for example, it is parked right behind this camera. This car is an automatic V8. So on paper, it's like the worst one. Okay. I'm going to start by saying that any R8 is better than not having one. So with that in mind, would I have preferred a gated V10? Yeah, I would have. Having a third pedal increases the value. It also increases the desirability and the rarity and all those things. Having the V10 in this first gen was also a little bit more rare. It became more relevant, so to speak, in the 2012s, I think on. Were pretty much mostly V10s, and the V8 became more scarce. But on the early first gens, the 08s, the 09s, when there only was a V8 option, some were gated manuals, some were automatics. The manuals were actually from the factory a little less expensive, but there were a little fewer of them made. So the R-Tronic automatic transmission, where you've got the paddle shifters, it was pretty new technology. I think Audi thought that it was going to be a lot better than it was. I really don't mind it. I like it. Now, would I prefer a gated manual? Again, yes, I would. But all that to say, you're going to learn about the sub models and the different options that are associated. So do you want upgraded sound? Do you want upgraded this? Do you want fancy that? Do you want the gold trim or the silver trim, right? Whatever. Those are the types of things that you're going to research before you start looking. What I like to do is make a list of things that are wants and things that are needs, okay? So for me, this car, a want was a V10. Another thing that my want was a gated manual. My needs were that it was a first gen. I prefer the first gen to the second, so there's that. My other needs were carbon fiber interior. The carbon door blades or the side blades, I could always swap off, so that was not a need. Carbon engine panels, also not a need, more of a want. I had a lot more wants than needs. My needs were, I wanted sub 40,000 miles. What else? Budget-wise, my needs were I wanted a sub $70,000 car. So I found what I needed and had a lot of the wants too, but not all of them, and so that's okay. But when I say start on a local level, I mean, dive into like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and those are great places to begin, because if there's something locally, you don't have to travel, right? You just can drive down the street and see this car or see that car and potentially drive it and maybe make a deal and drive it home. It's a very quick turnaround time when it's something local or if it's at a local dealership. The next thing I would do is that. I would start looking at dealerships, whether it's a new car, a used car, a new dealer, a used dealer. People get trade-ins, ask about what they've just gotten in on trade. If you're after a very specific year or make or model, don't waste a lot of time. They either have it or they don't, right? They're going to try to talk you into something else. So don't waste a lot of time. Don't show too much attention to them, and don't seem too desperate. Okay. Beyond that, you can just Google search, cars in my area. It'll bring up all the dealerships and you can start looking at their websites. And that's a pretty good way to go. While you're doing all that research, you're going to find ranges of values and sale prices, and you can look at historical sale prices on some of these things I'm about to talk about. And then you can start to see, What does that 2009 Audi R8 sell for, right? You're going to find that more colors are more desirable than other colors. Different options make it more desirable than other options or not having options. But all that plays into the price. The next thing I like to do is I go to eBay. Now, I've bought and sold cars on eBay. That seems crazy to a lot of people because it's an auction site, but it's not as much of an auction site as one might think. You can put a for sale ad on there that nobody bids on. You can just list it for sale. You can have it be a bidding type of approach. You can have what's called a buy it now price. You can have people make offers. It's actually pretty fantastic. I've won cars on eBay through the auction end of it. I have sold cars via auction and like best offer. So eBay I like. eBay is a great resource. Again, you can kind of sort by region. You can see how far cars are away from you. And it's a pretty good gauge to me of what cars are truly selling for. Because you're gonna see, again, cars that are more desirable with different options and better things tend to have more bids or tend to have more offers, as opposed to maybe a stripped down base model of a more common car. You're gonna get a better deal in some cases because they're a dime a dozen, right? So I like eBay for that. You're gonna have a much larger selection of something than you would say on the real local level like Craigslist. Facebook Marketplace expands that search a little bit wider. You can actually look, across the state or across the region. I like that about Facebook Marketplace. eBay is obviously national, so you can look in any state and you can kind of sort by distance. So if I do that, there might be a car, 2,500 miles away from me that is $400 cheaper than a car that's 100 miles away from me, but the time, the cost of transport or the time of doing the transport and all that stuff, it's more important to me to save the time, and I'll pay the $400 more to go 100 miles to get that vehicle. So all that factors in. Other options for you, again, if you resort back to the likes of the internet, you can use things like Car Gurus, Auto Trader Online, even Kelley Blue Book has a built-in for sale page. There's really a good resource called Auto Tempest. It is just like, it kind of encompasses all of these, but basically it is like a Google for cars that are for sale. So I don't use them first. I generally go to the source because of filtering and different things. Personal preference. If you don't have the time, just go to Auto Tempest right from the get-go. You can type in whatever you want. So once upon a time, I was looking for a mid-60s Mustang. So I went to Auto Tempest, typed in 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback, whatever it was, and you can select what search engines or where it's going to search the internet. So you can check a box for Craigslist, you can check a box for eBay, you can check a box for Facebook Marketplace, you can check a box for Car Gurus, Auto Trader, KBB, you name it, they're all on here. So it's pretty cool from that regard. It sorts it all into one place, and then you just scroll down and look. I don't love it because, again, it's filtering results from multiple websites. So you've got some inaccuracies. Occasionally there's going to be maybe something pulled in that if you click on it and it takes you to Car Guru, for example, Car Guru might have their page updated so that car's already been sold. But Search Tempest is pulling an old template or whatever it is. Or eBay is a great example of that, right? It might pop up a car that sold yesterday or sold earlier today, or maybe they show an old result and the car's already been bought it now, or the auction had ended, or whatever it is. So Search Tempest is good for that. But to me, I rather go to the source and then I can go in there and really fine tune my searching. So for example, again, I'll use my Audi. I bought that car through Car Guru, and it was through a dealership in California. And what I ended up doing was sorting by price, then sorting by mileage within the search. And I was able to find, at the time, right, what I felt to be the best value. It was a color I wanted. It had a lot of the options that I wanted. It was on the West Coast, which I wanted. It was from a reputable dealer, which I wanted. It had service history that I wanted, and they were somewhat negotiable. Now, on Car Gurus, it was listed substantially higher than it ended up selling to me for, but it had been sitting on there for a long time. And so what I had done was on Car Guru, you can actually sort by length of time that the car's been available or for sale. So cars that have been for sale for 60, 90, 120 days, the sellers tend to get a little antsy and they may become more negotiable. The other piece of that is inside that data, it tells you anytime there's been a price change. So for example, my R8, they started it at like $84,999 or something like that. It was about $85,000. And this is almost 2 years ago now. But 2 years ago, or more than 2 years ago, is when they listed the car. I think they listed it in like February or March of 21. It was about the middle part or the latter part of April. I started talking to the dealership and came to my negotiations in May and purchased the car. Now, when I approached them, the car had already been on the market for more than 90 days. And I had seen that they actually, I'm trying to remember exactly, but I think they had reduced it from like the 85,000 to 75,000 and then went back up to 80,000 or something like that. And that was about the time the car market started getting a little wild. Well, before I know it, and I'd been looking at R8s like every day. I was refreshing my searches, kind of seeing what new cars were hitting the market, and lots of cars were coming and going. And so I wasn't feeling pressured, but I also knew that I needed to be ready to act, right? The moment the car got to a price that I was comfortable with, I needed to be able to act on it. So in the meantime, my wife got a little bit excited and found a couple of cars that, she knew that I'd be interested in and was sending those over to me. We're texting and stuff like that. Well, one morning, might have been a Saturday. I'm drinking coffee, sitting at my dining table in the house, and I'm just scrolling through, and here's my car that had been $85,000 was literally marked down that morning to the 65 that I paid for it. So the moment I saw that, my eyes got about that big. I immediately grabbed my phone. I'm calling my wife, who's at work. I send them a message through Car Gurus saying I'm interested in the car. By the time my wife and I are talking about it on the phone, the other line's ringing and it's the car dealership and they're wanting to sell me the car. So the long and short of it was, because I had been diligent and had been watching and refreshing and paying close attention, I was able to watch, basically the history of this car trying to be sold and saved $20,000 from their initial asking price. Now, I wouldn't have paid the 85, so I really can't say that I saved 20 grand. I would have found a different car. But the truth is, this was one that was on my watch list because I really liked the color. I liked the interior. I liked the options and everything that it had. It checked the boxes, right? And that was kind of the deal. So again, I tell you all of that to tell you that there's so many different ways to buying a car that really one that often is overlooked. And this is the key. This is the gold of this episode for you guys, are cars that are off the market. So if you remember those three words, off the market, there's opportunities in life that you shouldn't pass up on. So if you're walking down the street or driving down the street and somebody has a car that catches your eye, if you're in a position to want to buy that thing, do not hesitate. Walk up to that person and say, hey, is your car for sale? Would you sell me that car? I'd love to have it. I'd love to buy it. What do you want for it? Truth is, right, people might say that's not for sale. Okay, maybe that's a soft no. They might say, I don't know. I don't know what it's worth. I don't know what I would do if I sold you my whatever it is, because then I have to go buy something else, But the bottom line for you to remember is, for the right price, stuff is always for sale. If someone walked into my garage, okay, I'm standing in my garage. If somebody walked in here right now and said, Josh, I'd cut you a check for $80,000 for this Audi, I'd have a hard time saying no. And I don't know that 80 is my number. Maybe it's a little less than that. Maybe it's a little more than that. If they want to have it bad enough, right? Or if I can see that they're desperate enough, I might say, 80 wouldn't take that car home, but 85 would. Maybe they write me a check, right? I don't know. Long and short of it is, things are for sale for the right price. So off the market, many times you can get the best deal possible, because now this can work to your advantage. If you see an old beat up project car in somebody's driveway that's been sitting there for a long time, you knock on the door, hey, I'm super interested in this Chevy Impala. Okay, I see that you've had it for a long time. It's been sitting here, you're not working on it. I'd love to take it off your hands. I'm looking for a project. I really love these cars. What would it cost me to take that home? If they aren't prepared with a number, sometimes you can work a sweet deal. They might say, you know what? Yeah, it's been kind of an eyesore. We've been thinking about getting rid of it. Your timing is great. You know, my brother needs to move in and that car needs to get out of the way. Whatever, right? There's a million different reasons somebody might need to get rid of a car in a hurry. And if you can get that car for, I don't want to say pennies on the dollar, because you don't want to take advantage of somebody. You know what the car is worth, and maybe you lowball them. If they don't know what it's worth and you get yourself a screaming deal, yay. If they know what it's worth and you say, hey, I want to give you $5,000 for this car that I know is worth 10, don't be surprised if they say, you know what? No, we know it's worth 10. We want 12 for it, or we want 8,500 for it, or whatever it is. So don't embarrass yourself by insulting somebody, right? People generally have a rough idea, but if they don't know, and you know, the car market's gone crazy the last couple of years. Things are a lot more expensive today than they were a couple of years ago. Even with high interest rates, even with the market being where it's at, you can still find yourself a really good deal. So off the market cars are a great place to, get yourself into something that A, you're not competing against the next guy for, right? Again, the R8, when I called or when I messaged them through the system and said, I want the car at $65,000, I'm sure I wasn't the only guy. Maybe I was the fastest, maybe my bank worked the quickest, maybe, all the things, but that doesn't mean I was the only guy. There was competition. That car had been publicly viewed hundreds of times through CarGurus, maybe thousands of times. And, I don't know how there were a bunch of people that had saved it, because you can save a listing. You can click the little heart or whatever it is. And it tells you, 27 people love this car. Okay. That means I'm one of 27 people watching this. And so the moment it falls in price, I need to be the first guy to make that offer. But if you're buying an off the market car and nobody's offering them anything for it, in fact, nobody even knows that it's for sale, because everything's for sale for the right price, remember that, then yeah, you can work yourself a pretty solid deal and get yourself into a car that maybe you didn't know you could. So that's something to consider too. Another one that's often overlooked, but I see it all the time because I'm on there, but if you're not, you wouldn't think of it, are Facebook groups or social media groups, or social media in general, really. Let's talk about Instagram for a quick second. This follows the same principle of everything's for sale for the right price. Sometimes people are selling cars and they just list their car. They take a picture of it in their driveway and say, you know what? Hey, share this to your friends. I'm selling this car for $15,000. Cool. What about that cool old classic that's parked behind that car in the garage? Is that for sale too? If it's not, what would you take for it? If it is, how much do you want for it? Right? Those kind of things. But that's on Instagram. That's going to be TikTok. That's going to be those types of social medias where, you're catching a glimpse of something because of something else. If you go to Facebook, there are groups for every single type of car imaginable. I am a member of 3 different Audi R8 groups. I'm a member of 2 different Ford Raptor groups and 2 different Ford Mustang groups, maybe even 3. One's a vintage car club type of thing. That's maybe not Mustang specific, but then 2 vintage Mustang groups. So I'm a member of all these groups. And if I wanted to sell a car or buy a car, those are great places to look, because you're talking to enthusiasts that likely have an open mind and might either be in the market for or trying to get out of what they already have. Vintage cars trade hands all the time. People buy these project cars, they fix them up, they drive them, they enjoy them, then they sell them because they're on to the next project. Or they inherit a car that they don't have interest in, but they join these forums to learn information about the car, maybe to figure out, what can I do about this or that, or how do I fix this, or why does this do that? At the end of the day, everything's for sale for the right price. So you see a car on one of those forums, you might be you might be barking up the right tree, right? So those are things to consider when you're shopping for a vehicle. Make sure that you're looking at all avenues. Do not just go downtown and walk into a car dealership and buy something, because that's not a good value. That's not a good deal. Value and price are two different things. Resort back to like episode 5. I don't know. We talked about that very early on in this channel. Value and price are two very different things. And when you're trying to buy a used car, the price is what you pay, the value is what you get. And you want to get as much as you can for the price that you pay. So person to person, get an inspection. If you have to get a loan, do it with a reputable bank with the best interest rate you can, best terms you can, make it fit your budget, all those things. But most importantly, just, it's important to know that, you want to do your homework. Walking into a car lot, especially if you haven't done your homework, their objective is to not let you leave without signing your name on the dotted line and driving out of there in something new. Whether you're trading something in or not, that doesn't even matter. They want to sell you a car. That's their job. That's their objective. And quite frankly, they think you're interested because you showed up at a car lot, right? Whether you're interested or not, whether you're planning to buy or not, whether you're doing recon homework, whether you're wanting to just test drive something, you need to be super transparent with your objective and say, hey, listen, I'm not buying today. I'm just here to look, just scouting the waters, right? I just want to see what's out there. I've been wanting to look at this new F-150, or I wanted to look at this car. Or I've never sat in one of these and I kind of like one. So maybe one day I'd like to buy one. I'm just curious to see how comfortable it is. Whatever. So do your homework, shop around, look online, join groups and forums. But most importantly, remember, may every investment you make be a good one. Till next time.